So let's start with a happy topic. Let's start with recruiting. It's kind of unbelievable. I don't remember the league and you guys ever recruiting at this high of a level before, and it's kind of across the board. I guess, buddy, I'll start with you. I don't remember getting this many kids with FBS and FCS offers. What's changed in the league these days?
Well, I think it's just the awareness of the quality of play in the Ivy League. You look at the number of NFL players and the success guys have having going through, the level of coaching, the preparedness. Guys take it very, very seriously, strength and conditioning. So a guy that has aspirations of maybe going on into the medical profession and the legal profession, but also entertains ideas or dreams of being an NFL player, he can realize them in our league. And that's not quite true at some other levels.
Like Buddy said, I think kids are looking more big picture these days. And when you have an opportunity to go to one of these 8 schools, there's a lot more kids that are looking at it saying, I want to explore this rather than shutting the door on it.
It's already been alluded to, but the financial aid changes have really been helpful. You know, I think if you go back 5 to 10 years ago, we shut out that upper middle class just because of the cost. And I think once the Harvard, Yale, Princeton initiatives kicked in, I think the rest of the league said, hey, this is a pretty good thing. And I think we've had a lot more access now with different kids.
Well, the difference is there's more information out there. The internet has created the opportunity for people to be able to know more about the league. And you know, for me, I think they're looking at, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. And where can I get the best of both worlds? And in the Ivy League, you get the very best in education, you get the very best on the football field as well. And you look at that with guys that have been able to go from the league into the next level in the NFL. So the quality of play has improved, and there's just more opportunity there.
I think you show him the big picture. You show him the life after football, the connections and networking really comes into play. I think along all of our schools, of those opportunities are there by people that you meet during this journey as you're going across.
Bob, I saw where the Ivy League has 28 guys in NFL training camps this year, which is unbelievable, a new record. Do you feel like that's been a part of it, a part of the recruiting success?
It's definitely a part of it. I mean, these kids want excellence. They are high achievers, and a few of us played in the Ivy League, and we wanted that. And I wasn't good enough to go to that next level, but I wanted a place that valued football. And when I was being recruited, that was important to me. And I think we all do the same thing. We want guys who love football, who want something after football. When football ends, it's going to be important to them.
So Murph, when you guys have had double-digit guys in training camp and on rosters, at this point when you recruit, do you just pretty much guarantee them that they'll be in the NFL?
You know, I think the irony is the fact that the 10 kids we have in the NFL right now, not one of them actually had an FBS offer. They were kids who were just great athletes, overachievers, and such driven kids. And they found out they wanted to get a world-class education, and they still knew that if they're good enough, the league is going to find you. And I think that's why our league is doing so well in the NFL.
How important is it to the kids you're recruiting and their parents that there's a legit chance I can go there and still reach the highest level?
It's a factor, but it's not the biggest factor. I think the biggest factor is they look at this as a 40-year proposition, and if they can play a high level of Division I football as they can in the Ivy League and still get a world-class education, I think that's the big picture they're looking for.
You know, I was recruited over 20 years ago, and the landscape's different with the aggressive financial aid. When you see the facilities that rival Division I football, when you play football in the Ivy League, no door closes to you. The NFL is still open, finance world's still open, being a leader of industry is still open, being a leader of government, or all that's still open. Nothing closes when you come to one of these schools. It actually, everything expands.
So Phil, I don't ever remember it being this way where every week was a tough week. You know, when I played, and even since I've been broadcasting, there was usually a team or two that was down, but now it's like every week you better be ready to go, because you could lose to anybody.
Well, it's the quality of coaching. I think the one thing about the Ivy League that you see is that these are well-coached kids. They're always prepared for each game. There isn't a break in the league. I think our break comes out of league, to be honest with you. But it's a quality of coaching, it's a quality of player. They're well prepared each and every weekend, and you know you better play your best game when you're in league.
Tony, what does it say about where you guys are as a league that, you know, your non-conference schedule and your non-conference record the last few years across the board has been one of the top in college football?
Well, it speaks volumes of the quality of the play in the league by each team. You know, like Phil was just saying, I mean, we're one of the only conferences that doesn't have a bye week, and we go straight through. We start our season when teams have already played on some years 3 games, and we face the iron out of league as well. So I think you've got a great quality of coaching and players in this league.
Well, I think nationally there's just greater balance across the board. There's a lot of well-trained kids coming out of high school. The fun thing for us is a lot of very intelligent kids coming out as well. And from a recruiting standpoint, you look at the percentage of college graduates who will have an opportunity in the NFL, 2%, lifespan 3 years. And these guys, every one of them is going to have a job. So to come to an Ivy situation, have that opportunity, you could be that guy without sacrificing some other goals and options down the road. And it's right now it's just very, very competitive across the board, and we hold our head high. We're an Ivy League team, and we'll play anybody in the country. We'll play them well.
I look at the stats of how many kids are applying to your schools. I'm not talking football. I'm talking applying to your schools, and what the first-year salaries are. Do you think it's fair to say, Bob, that the value of an Ivy League education is maybe as high as it's ever been, given the numbers that are out there?
People are looking at the big picture. Recruits, families of recruits are looking at that big picture, that no matter what field they go into, they have a greater opportunity of success. And you combine the sacrifices and teamwork and values of football with the world-class educations our schools provide, and you're put like a step above even the other students at our schools.
Al, so when I was doing interviews, like Wall Street interviews, before I knew football to work out, it was such a good feeling. I feel like every other interview I had, the guy was an Ivy League football player. The guy's like, oh, I play football. Yeah, I was like, oh, thank goodness I can sit back in the chair. And, you know, it was a good feeling. You know, that fraternity is really real. I mean, you go for the education and the degree, but the fraternity is a very real thing.
Yeah, everybody's alumni base is very passionate. And I think that elite fraternity provides so many opportunities, opens up so many doors, and I think provides some guidance for a kid who may only be a sophomore, may only be a freshman, and just he can experience so many different things because someone will take him under his wing. Somebody who's been in his shoes will take him, will guide him, will train him, and ultimately will mentor him, you know, as he goes through professionally. And I think that's a great selling point for all 8 schools.
As we've all alluded to, I think it's the depth and the breadth of the exposure these kids get, that guidance coming through the process, and then you've achieved, you're accomplished, you got that stamp on you that you're an Ivy League grad. That's pretty special, and put you in a group, in a category of a small percentage of the population. And as we say around the football players, I mean, it's, you know, you fight on the field, but afterwards there's a long life to live, and I think these guys look at that as a brotherhood.
Dave, how helpful is it for you to go into homes and say, hey, I played in the Ivy League, I know what it's all about, and my buddy's doing this, my buddy's doing that, my other buddy's doing this, and have real examples from your college teammates of what you can do with an Ivy League degree?
It's everything, you know, not only with the friends I played with, but also just like the rest of these guys can, you can humanize the success and say, look at this guy, he's 30 years out, or he's 20 years out, he's 15 years out, here's what his path was, here's what he did while he was here. And once you come to school here, we'll have a mentor program to get you in touch with them. So anytime you can like legitimize it by actual human stories of real people, whether it's yourself or other alums from your school, it really helps. And the families look and say, well, yeah, they can start to see themselves being those people.
So you guys are recruiting the best and brightest. Buddy, when you go to a home and you talk to parents, have you had parents voice concerns about the head stuff, concussions, repeated hits to the head? I mean, do parents voice that? I mean, obviously they got smart kids. They're also talented kids able to play at this level. Has that been an issue with parents yet that you've seen?
I think any home you enter, it's a concern. Greater awareness, CTE, long-term injuries, subconcussive hits, and so forth. So it's a topic of conversation, and I think the Ivy League coaches, I think we've been a leading force in doing things in a better way and maybe a safer way.
Well, what's your message to them when they tell you that that's a legitimate concern for them?
Well, just reducing the number of hits, and where we don't tackle in season. At Dartmouth, we don't tackle ever. The number of subconcussive hits a guy will occur at our place are minimal. You look at the national average, and no one can say definitively if this, then that, but common sense and intuitively, if you reduce the numbers, maybe the opportunity not to be compromised down the road is great. And the guys that want to be doctors, lawyers, investment bankers, venture capital people, they're going to use their minds for a long period of time. So is there a safer way to do it? And I think we've been courageous enough to step out and say, yeah, let's try this to the advantage and safety of our players.
I think, as Buddy alluded to, the Ivy League has really done a great job in being a leader in terms of mitigating as many parts of any type of potential head trauma that can be, whether it's the rules, whether it's practice regimen. And I think, and in general, if you look at our culture, you look at our practice regimen, you look at our rules, I think as a league we've done more to safeguard student athletes than anybody in the country.
I think taking tackling out of practice has been a big deal. And I think parents see that. They understand that the Ivy League has their safety and the welfare of the student athlete in mind in everything that we do. And that goes from, you know, the coaching staff to the training staff to the administrators. So we're not just preparing them, you know, for that the game day, we're preparing them for the rest of their lives.
Tony, I know you have a special teams background. What about the new kickoff rule? How do you think that's going to impact the league and the health and safety of players as well?
I think when you look at the Ivy, what we've done in the last couple of years of our kickoff rules, we really set the example for conversations nationwide and on the rules committee as well on, okay, let's look at this model, and it's actually helped make the game safer for the Ivy League teams that have been using it, and how do we apply that to the rest of the country? So, you know, I think whenever you can minimize those big collisions, those high impact collisions, you're making the game safer. And hopefully the rest of the country has looked at what we've done in the league and said, hey, we need to follow along and we need to make this game safer for the kids who play it.
Ray, what do you think the impact will be of the new fair catch rule on kickoff returns?
I think the key point here is that we can never make the game totally safe, but we can make it safer. And every one of these rules, with the kickoff rule, where we spot it from, we kick it to, add to it. Whether it's a tackling, how we tackle, how we practice today is so different. We were talking earlier about 3 practices a day back in the day. It doesn't happen anymore. We're single practice, which definitely helps to the health of the student athlete with it. Fair catch rule, I think it's another way to keep the ball spotted back on the 35, kicked inside. People want to game it with a fair catch. With a big pooch kick, I think it's one of those other steps of doing it. Always trying to improve of it, and I'm sure there'll be more changes as we move into the future.
Bob, you have a young son. What do you think the future of football is? Like, what's next? Because every year there's something new. Every year there's some type of rule to make it safer. What do you think's next?
It's funny because I just had the conversation with him yesterday, what he's going to do in the fall, which of the 3 sports he's going to play. And instead of playing all these other travel-y around things, he's playing community Pop Warner football. And I don't know if everybody will agree if that's the right thing for a 12-year-old, but I see us, and I think we're all leaders not only at our universities and in our league, but in our communities, and teaching this game, making this game safer, seeing this game grow, seeing this game get better, because I think we're all in it because it was the greatest, you know, game in our lives. The teamwork and the passion and the energy and the things that we got out of football were so great. And now that we've minimized the risk, I was with my dad last week. He was joking about, as a high school coach in 1970s, he had 4 days. And they had 2 live practices a day. And they took a lot of pride in that back in 1972. You know, he sees where this game has gone, and it's such a safer game. We're making it better for these young kids to play. And now they got opportunities, if they do the right things academically, to go to schools like ours and play this game, and they're going to go on to great success in life.
There's a frenzy within the media focusing on all the negative aspects. The opportunity is minimized with a lot of kids, and I think we can do more with the sport to reduce impacts and contact opportunities. The game, kids are playing much earlier than they used to, the broadening of youth football and so forth. If we minimize the contact at the youth level, can we still teach the skill sets of the game so they're going to be successful later on? And I think that's the path that we have to follow. There are things that we've done successfully and productively, and I think there's more that can be done as well.
Dave, you're the youngest guy in the league. What are your thoughts? Are you have concerns about the future of the sport moving forward? Because Buddy's right, I think a lot of the media attention is on the negative aspects of it.
Oh, I think that the steps we take, and I think it's important to always be forward thinking with that. How do you make the game the safest it can be and the best it can be? Whether that's bringing in consultants who have studied how to rugby tackle, and is that the safest way to go about doing it, or changing a practice model, or taking a look at rules. It's an all-encompassing thing, and the game can still be the greatest game, and aggressive, and the passion and the enthusiasm and the camaraderie and the learning how to be a great teammate and learning how to give of yourself for a greater good can all exist, and it can still be safe. And I think that these guys in the Ivy League do a great job of making sure that envelope is constantly pushed, and that's constantly at the forefront of every topic. There's not a league meeting that we go to that's not on the agenda.
Objectively speaking, I'm really bullish on the sport of football, because I look at the game that I played as a kid, as a high school kid and as a college kid, and I believe that we can and have mitigated so many of the issues that the proverbial soccer moms have concerns about that, and I say that with the greatest respect. But if you look at the culture, if you look at the rules, if you look at the practice regimen, you look at the sports medicine science of it all, this is a much better and a much safer game than it's ever been before, and that's what you don't necessarily hear in the media.
How about you, Phil? What's different? I mean, you've been at Brown for a long time. What's different now than it was 20 years ago?
Coming into this league, 25 years ago, I don't know that people understood the Ivy League at that point. I mean, the quality of the players, the kind of people that we were recruiting, and it was trying to get the message out there of what the Ivy League could do and how it could prepare you, for the next 40 years of your life. And I think that, I think all the coaches have done a good job of saying that probably the Ivy League does the best of both worlds, of preparing you to be the very best athlete you can be, preparing you for maybe the next level, but also preparing you for the next steps in life. So I think that nobody does it better than the Ivy League. I think it's got the greatest balance of athletics and academics, and I think that we brought it to a greater level now.
Yeah, I think there's a tremendous amount more of awareness by everybody, and a lot of different fronts. Awareness of the opportunities that exist, both professionally, in terms of whatever job they want to do, both athletically and the next level. Awareness of how aggressive we've been on the medical front, which I think has been an issue, how proactive we've been with everything. And so I think we have much more awareness, and whether it's the players, whether it's the coaches, whether it's the administrators, the medical staff, everybody has much greater awareness of all these issues that put together make for a great product. But if you don't pay attention to it, it can sneak up and hurt you.
How good do you think it'll be for the league, Tony, having every single game on ESPN, one of the ESPN platforms that anybody, anywhere can access it this season?
Well, I think it just speaks volumes of the type of football we're playing, that an affiliate like ESPN, we want to broadcast our games, the worldwide leader in sports. And for us, we're putting our brand out there to the whole world to watch on a much different platform than it's been before. So, we're really excited about it, and I know our players are as well.
What is it about Friday night, the TV games, ESPNU this year, that gets your kids up and is such a good thing for the league?
It's different. It's different. The whole mindset's different. I think a lot of these young men have played on Friday nights back in their high school games, being on the big stage. Their friends nationwide are watching them. I just think it just added a little bit more of a spark to it. And then once you get on a roll, I thought that was an exciting part for our kids and our fan base to see it and challenge of that Friday night game. And we're going to play on a Friday night up in Hanover. That's a whole different mindset, traveling on a Thursday and everything else. And they added to a little bit of a change of what we have, not having the playoffs. It added a little bit different, a little bit more excitement to our overall season.
Buddy, I know last year you had a quarterback from the Bay Area throwing the ball to a wide receiver from Manville, Texas. Do you think that the national television exposure and what you'll get from ESPN this year has been part of that? I know you guys have always all recruited nationally, but do you think the TV exposure now being on ESPN will help that?
Well, I think it will. Certainly the reputation of the schools is nationwide, international. But to have moms and dads from California, from New Mexico, from Iowa, have a chance to see their son play or their relatives and whatnot is huge. And we market that. ESPN does a wonderful job. Certainly it's the go-to place in sports in terms of media attention. And to be a part of that on such a regular basis is huge for all of us.
So the one thing I guess I kind of regret from Cal, I didn't do I didn't go to as many of like the on-campus speakers as I wish I would have. I didn't take advantage of all the opportunities. Probably didn't do a whole lot in the community as much as I wish I had, looking back on it now. But I know you all have examples of guys that are doing those things. I mean, I see you guys all have honorary captains, it seems like, or at least several of your teams. Tony, I know it's been a big part of what you guys have done in the community and with your honorary captain.
Yeah, Dante Chipetta, one of our players with Team Impact. He's been an extraordinary guy for us, and allowed our players to really get involved with the Chipetta family. Allowed them to really be close with a local group of people that they've seen him grow and improve in his time with us at Yale. And we always talk about compared to what with our players, and watching him every day and watching him grow and overcome obstacles that none of our guys have ever had or been fortunate enough not to have has really been a great thing for our kids.
Dave, do you have some guys on campus that have been able to take advantage of doing some things on campus or in the community?
Yeah, we get involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Ithaca Youth Bureau. We host a bowling tournament amongst our team to help raise money for them. We get those kids out to practice. We do the bone marrow drive like a lot of college football programs do. But Tony's right, when you're able to get a local flavor to the team, because so many of them come from all over the country, but to give back to that local community and through Big Brothers Big Sisters has been really good.
I know, Ray, you guys do something as well.
Yeah, Friends of Jacqueline program. We have my first team captain was a 3.5-year-old Vito DiCaprio from upstate Pennsylvania. And that whole experience really humbled our kids. The gratitude that you have, how lucky we are, what we have in place. And you look at a young man that went through 40 days of chemo treatment, and a kid can't finish a drill. Our kids would say, let's do it for Vito. And it just gives kids a sense of purpose and everything else. And we're all about impacting lives. And if we can impact that young person's life and others, that's a special gift that we all have as coaches and as programs to do. And I think that's a special what we're all being part of.
Al, your kids have a unique opportunity too in New York, the opportunities there to do stuff.
Yeah, they really get involved. And I think everybody's campus gives back. And I think that's a great example of some of the things that we stress. And we're part of the bone marrow like everybody else is here, but we also do Ronald McDonald House. We do Big Brothers, Big Sisters. There's a bench press competition that raises money for cancer. And I just think it's so important that when you've been blessed, like I tell our kids, they've been blessed physically, they've been blessed intellectually, to give back, to appreciate what you have, give back, and do it with a sense of pride in giving back, and it's the right thing to do.
What about taking advantage of other opportunities on campus? When I was at Princeton, our running back would miss some spring practice to be in a play. Any of you guys, I don't know this offhand, any of you guys have any examples of kids on campus that are doing anything else out of the ordinary beyond football, buddy?
Yeah, I really encourage that. One of the neat things about our school and our environment, our guys are true student athletes. They're not taking backup courses or anything else. They're there because they're academically and intellectually capable of competing with everybody on campus. And I think it's important to be involved with everybody on campus. We have guys on ski patrol, and we have a ski mountain. I let my guys ski. We actively encourage guys to study abroad, and we have kids in Australia, England, Spain, Germany, Italy. And people say, well, how do you develop a program like that? Well, kids value football. You can train any place in the world. Go on over, have a great time, come on back and play. Student government, a cappella groups. And if you encourage that, I've got some artists on the football team. And that's kind of the norm. And you're a football player at football time, but you're an intellect and a member of the student body all the time. So interact with those folks. And I think it's been enriching for our players and enlightening for people in the rest of the community.
Bob, it feels like half your team plays other sports. From what I followed on the internet, it's like they're either sprinters or baseball players or whatever. Is that something that you look for or encourage?
No, but we don't discourage it. And the thing I talk about with our other coaches, if they're good enough to do both, we're going to give them that opportunity. And whether it's Jesper Horsted, who's on the baseball team and is a prolific player, an all-Ivy player, Charlie Volker's been all-Ivy 100-meter dash and 60-meter dash, and he's a running back for us, and Chase Williams starts on a lacrosse team. If they're good enough to be on both sports, when I played, the Garrett brothers all played baseball, and it didn't affect their preparation for football, and it enhanced their college experience. And I think that's something that we try to do as leaders, is see them enhance their experience. One thing, you know, and I know you did, and Dave, you know, and Buddy, we had to do, you got to manage your time real well, and our guys really become experts at doing that, and that's a great lifelong skill for them to have.
So one thing that's coming up next year, pretty cool, CFB 150, 150 years of college football. I guess, Bob, I'll ask you about it first, since Princeton played in the first game against Rutgers. How excited are you about that, and why is that such a big deal?
Yeah, it's the tradition of this league. You know, we were part of the start of football, and so many great things in my life, almost everything, came out of my ability to be successful at sports, be successful at football, and be a successful student, and to be part of the Princeton tradition and history, and be part of this league's tradition and history is second to none. And you know, something, you know, you pinch yourself that, you know, they're paying me to coach. I don't tell the people who negotiate that, but you know, I know you feel that way. They're paying us to be part of football, and in me, it's my alma mater, my friendships, the lifelong people that I value and have been so meaningful to me. And you know, when I was first there, to be able to sit down and have dinner with a Heisman Trophy winner, like, you can't imagine. When I was 15 years old, I never would have guessed I'd have that opportunity. And you know, I'm in the NFL, and whether it's seeing you, whether it's, you know, getting a chance to work with Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's amazing all the great things that happen about being part of the Ivy League.
Murph, what about just the history of the Ivy League? I tell people the story of how they couldn't widen the field because of Harvard Stadium all the time, and that they invented the forward pass, which probably really adversely impacted my NFL career, by the way. It would have been much better if I didn't have to pass block those guys. But just talk a little bit, if you can, about the Ivy League and the history, because we're talking 150 years of college football, but the Ivy League's been around the whole time, from the first game.
Well, to your point, I think you have to sometimes remind young kids that the Ivy League probably has more history and more tradition. We're really proud to be among the oldest and most traditional football playing Division I schools in the country, and it's a big part of what we do. We all have great rivalries that are 100+ years, and I think as life goes on, you realize how important that tradition is, and you try to make sure people understand it.
Phil, how cool has it been, some of the different opportunities that you guys got to play in Fenway last year? I remember being in the locker room. I mean, it's pretty awesome, some of the opportunities that are coming, and you think about the fact that however many years it had been since they'd actually played a college football game there.
That was probably one of the highlights of last season, being able to play Dartmouth at Fenway Park. I know that practicing the night before and watching our players, you know, just move around that stadium and taking pictures against the Green Monster and things like that. It was exciting. It was great for the coaches. I think it was great for our alumni base as well. I think that's the game that they're still talking about, you know, to be able to play in a great venue like Fenway Park.
Ray, what about just the stadiums? I think I appreciate it more now, going to NFL stadiums, to think, you know, Franklin Field and the Yale Bowl and Harvard Stadium. It's pretty special what stadiums your kids get to play in, and your kids get to play at Franklin Field every home game.
Absolutely historic. I mean, some of the best players that ever played college football, that foundation of college football. John Heisman went to Penn, coached at Penn in Franklin Field. Okay, Heisman Trophy. Chuck Bednarik, okay, Concrete Charlie went to Penn, played in Franklin Field, and you go John Outland, 3 of the 4 top, you know, award winners in college football started at Penn there. Then you go to Harvard Stadium or the Yale Bowl and some of these great venues. I mean, it's history. Every time you step on the field, you're part of a special history.
I think it just shows the uniqueness of what we do and the model that we have in the Ivy League. You know, a few miles down the road is a Walter Camp Arches that honor the man who really started the rules of the modern game. And every school has a guy like that really was at the onset of college football. But you know, one of the things that I think this league is doing a great job of is, college football started as a game where men played and developed. And in this league, we're still looking at it that way, is that we're trying to develop young men. And college football does it better than anyone else. You know, you're still trying to develop the future leaders of the world, and we take a lot of pride in that here at the Ivy League.
Dave, what about, talking of alums, what about NFL careers or sort of non-traditional Ivy careers? I mean, not as an NFL player. I feel like there's more, I see more of your kids now that are scouting in places, they're in front offices, they're doing, like, I don't remember that often, 20 years ago, but now it seems like a lot of Ivy League football players, or some of them are even getting into baseball and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big focus on our campus and probably the other campuses as well, the business of sports. And the guys want to stay involved with the game, but they might not necessarily want to coach, so they get into the scouting, they get into the marketing, they get into the front office, and sports is big business. But I think that I really echo what Tony said is, we take a lot of pride in being educators, and this game is the greatest way to do it. You learn how to be a teammate, you learn how to care about other people, you learn how to care about something bigger than yourselves and represent something bigger than yourself. And I think that the Ivy League absolutely does it right. You represent your school, during those 4 years and obviously and beyond. And then, as we mentioned earlier, the fraternity really grows outside of it. You went to Cornell and you went to Columbia kind of breaks down, and it's, hey, we both played Ivy League football. And so I think it's a model that should be celebrated.
Well, to Dave's point, I think the greatest thing about being a student athlete, the greatest thing about being a college football player in the Ivy League is the education through athletics. Education is much more than what you just learn in the classroom. It's the sum total of experiences. And for our kids, beyond the economics class or the engineering class, what you learn on the football field is invaluable. And not that talent and intelligence are insignificant, they're not, but your work ethic, your competitiveness, your resiliency, some of those things are the greatest indicators of success in life.
That is very well said. Fellas, really appreciate the time. Good luck this season.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.